Hi and welcome to Tabletop Mini Showcase. I'm Jim, and in this video I want to revise my view on whether or not I think Slapchop is a good technique for beginners. Let's get to it. About 7 or 8 months ago I made a video giving my advice to beginner painters, and in that video I basically said although Slapchop could give pretty good results as a speed painting technique, I personally felt that it was too difficult a technique and had too little margin for error to be a suitable technique for beginners, and I personally felt that beginners would be better off just concentrating on painting clean opaque base coats, as it would be a more forgiving way for them to develop. Now, a lot of people assumed that that meant I hate Slapchop, or that I think Slapchop can never be a good technique for beginners, or that I was saying the technique had no merit, and the truth is that is not how I feel about Slapchop at all. But I can understand why people might have gotten that impression, as having the ability to easily fix mistakes may not be the most important requirement for beginners in every circumstance. And by failing to acknowledge that Slapchop could in fact be a equally, if not superior method of developing as a beginner, I was being kind of unfair. And so today I've decided to delete that video and replace it with a video that is a little bit more of a balanced discussion about the circumstances where Slapchop could be beneficial for beginner painters and the circumstances where they may actually be better off concentrating on just painting clean opaque base coats. You see, when we talk about beginner painters, we need to consider more than just someone who has little to no experience. We also need to consider a vast array of different circumstances. For instance, the age of the beginner, their natural ability level, their experience with other similar mediums such as canvas painting or illustration, their financial circumstances, their painting environment, their project specifications, and their mindset. Each of these factors can dramatically affect the way that a beginner develops. This means that we need to consider each of these factors, as well as probably many more, when we advise a beginner on how to begin their painting journey. Feel free to leave your suggestions for other things to consider when we think about beginner painters in the comments below. Now, let's say for example we have a beginner who is of adult age, with a standard adult level of finesse and dexterity. This person has the finances to be able to afford multiple brushes that can be used for specific purposes such as dry brushing and fine detail. They wish to paint a bunch of different models that A, are predominantly a single colour such as dryads, B, have very few different coloured small details, so require not too high a level of brush control, and C, have very organic separations of colours such as tyranids. Let's also say that this person is unlikely to have the patience to sit for hours painting, and they will be greatly encouraged to paint more often if they can achieve a good level of finish in an amount of time that isn't going to test their patience. This person could feasibly find Slapchop to be a good technique to begin their painting journey with, as it could potentially allow them to get a large amount of minis painted to a nice standard and with highlights and gradients that they otherwise would not be able to achieve by concentrating on painting clean opaque base coats. Achieving this level of result may help them to feel positive about painting and be encouraged to do it more often. A lack of details and colours may be simple enough to manage, and a lack of defined areas of colour very well may provide them with an adequate margin for error. Over time, utilising this technique may help this individual to develop brush control, and due to the increased difficulty level of correcting mistakes on areas that are made up of pre-shaded base coats with colours glazed over the top of them, they may actually become a little bit better at mitigating the chances for error than people who are simply painting models with clean base coats and have easy opportunity to correct those mistakes. They may also develop a strong understanding of the placement of light and shadow that is actually more comprehensive than the knowledge base of people who are just painting with clean opaque base coats. And they may also become a little bit more accustomed to painting with glazes. Each of these factors may help them as they develop in their painting journey. Now, bear in mind that this is not a guaranteed outcome. There may also be circumstances where a person struggles to paint without making mistakes, and has real difficulty fixing those mistakes due to the multiple steps that they may need to take in order to fix those mistakes. This could lead to them becoming disheartened and frustrated and actually cause them to paint less often. There really is no way that I am aware of that we can guarantee how a person will react with 100% certainty. Now let's take a look at an example where a person may be better off learning by just concentrating on doing clean opaque base coats. Let's say for example the beginner is around 12 or 13 years of age and has a standard level of finesse and dexterity for that age bracket. This child only has one brush that they use for all of their painting. Again, this person wishes to paint a bunch of models that A, are predominantly a single colour such as dryads, B, have very few different coloured small details, so require not too high a level of brush control, and C, have very organic separations of colours such as tyranids. And again, let's say this person is unlikely to have the patience to sit for hours painting, and they will be greatly encouraged to paint more often if they can achieve a good level of finish in an amount of time that isn't going to test their patience. In this instance, it would probably be better that this beginner starts out by concentrating on painting clean opaque base coats, as children of this age are feasibly less dexterous than adults and are less capable of doing these kind of fine detail tasks without making mistakes. Since Slapchop consists of painting transparent layers over a pre-shaded base, it may be a little bit more difficult for them to colour match any mistakes that they do make. Whereas by concentrating on just painting clean opaque base coats, they can simply correct their mistakes by just reapplying the initial colour over those mistakes. And since just painting clean opaque base colours only really requires the need of one paintbrush rather than multiple paintbrushes to do dry brushing and fine detail, the fact that this individual only has one paintbrush will not cause any kind of problems for them. By sticking to simpler models and having a technique that can allow them to make quick and easy fixes of mistakes, this person may find that they can achieve a good level of finish, and that may encourage them to paint more often and generally feel positive about the painting experience. A lack of details and colours may be simple enough for them to manage, and a lack of defined areas of colour could very well provide adequate margin for error. With practice, their brush control and foundation level painting could improve and prepare them to advance to further techniques such as edge highlighting and glazing, particularly as they can be happy in the knowledge that should they try those techniques and be unhappy with the results, they can easily go back over them with the original base coat colour. They may even begin to apply the opaque layers of paint in very thin glazes, building up the layers until the paints are opaque, and that way they can practice doing glazing without committing to an actual glazed or blended finish. Each of these factors may help them in their development as they continue their painting journey. Again, this is not a guaranteed outcome, and there may be circumstances where the lack of highlighting and shading in the early stages could lead to the beginner becoming disheartened or frustrated and painting less often. And again, there really is no way that I'm aware of that we can determine how a person will react with 100% certainty. Now, these examples are not meant to say that all adults have better dexterity than children. There are lots of grey areas and lots of opportunities to experiment with how you paint your minis. Ultimately, we are all individuals with individual skills, requirements and expectations that require individual solutions. So the methods that we use on our painting journey can vary vastly. The important thing to remember is to just have fun when you're painting, because if you're not having fun when you're painting, you're going to be less inclined to pick up that brush, and the less we paint, the less we develop our skills. Whatever technique you choose to use when you're painting, practice and experimentation will quite likely be key components in growth. So ensuring that you're having fun and painting often will likely make quite a big difference. If you're finding the models that you're painting stressful and it's making you not want to pick up that paintbrush, maybe try using a new technique. Or even switch to some simpler models and start building up your skills that way. The more you paint, the more you will become familiar with your tools, and the more your body will develop muscle memory, which will make it easier for you to do more complex tasks. It just takes time. In order for me to better illustrate the ways that I paint my models, I've actually set up a new camera, which means that I will be able to give you guys a much clearer view of how I paint my models, and that should help you to get a better idea of the techniques that I'm using from now on. And thanks to the support that you guys have shown me by watching my videos and subscribing to my channel, I've actually been contacted by an individual who creates some frankly amazing mech-inspired 3D print files, and I've been asked to paint those models on my channel, which will mean that I can produce some fantastic content for you guys and share with you some amazing models that you may not currently be aware of. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, go ahead and leave a like. That way I'll know to continue making videos like this in the future. Here are a couple of other videos that you might also like. And until next time, in a bizzle, action!